In Time is a 2011 science fiction film from writer-director Andrew Niccol. This is the guy who wrote one of my favourite movies of all time, The Truman Show, and also a very good science fiction film indeed in Gattaca, which he also directed. Obviously back on directing duty here, as I say, but does this film live up to those two movies? When I first saw it back in 2011, I said no, it didn't. I was actually very disappointed with this movie. I think I gave it 2 stars, 2 out of 5. Yet for whatever reason, it's cropped up recently in the Cine Sci-Fi Facebook group, which is a Facebook group I run for science fiction kind of fans. So if that interests you, do go and check that out. But it came up recently on there, and I thought I'd give it another shot. And I gotta say, this time around, I really enjoyed it, like a lot. Like, I don't know why I felt so badly about it the first time around. It's not perfect, don't get me wrong. It does have some issues, but no way near the level that, for whatever reason, I believed it did when I saw it way back when. First of all, the world building is incredible. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, this is set in the future. In a world where our time is the greatest commodity. So people have a clock in their wrist, built in their wrist, and once it hits 0, that's it, they die. Now the clock doesn't start ticking until they come of age. So, they're fine, they've got the time until they're 18. Then on their 18th birthday, boom, the clock starts ticking. And you have to work to gain more time and things like that. And then it obviously becomes a bit of a class struggle where you've got the rich having millions of years on their wrist to do with as they please, and then you have the poor people working day to day just to get enough time to live the following day. So yeah, very interesting concept. I think the way that the world is built, all the logistics of it, I think Andrew Niccol has a really good grasp of those elements to make you believe that this is a real thing, a real situation, that this is something that could one day be employed. I like the look at class. Obviously with most science fiction, you do things in a way that is, yes, it looks to the future, but it also says something about the present in which we live. You look at the way class structures still exist today, always have done, and probably always will, and that's all here. I like the way it takes a refreshing look at those systems, those hierarchies within society. The visuals are very nice, which is pretty much a given that Roger Deakins did the cinematography for this, although I must say I was a bit surprised when his name popped up at the end. I didn't realise he was cinematographer on this. Like I said, it looked nice, but nothing kind of jumped out at me the way that it usually would. Like let's compare another science fiction film, for example, Blade Runner 2049. Some of the most beautiful cinematography in existence. There isn't really much of that here. It's still a beautiful film to look at. But it's not outstanding in that regard. When you think of what Deakins is capable of, Blade Runner 2049. But like I say, it's not. I wouldn't call it bad. It's just. I don't want to say unremarkable either. It's nice, but that's about it. 2 central performances are by Justin Timberlake, of all people, and Amanda Seyfried, someone who seems to have become something of a muse to Andrew Niccol after he, cast her in his most recent film, Anon, a film that I think another film of his I think I need to give a second watch at some point. Yeah, I think their performances, their chemistry works well enough. I think they could have cast someone a bit more experienced, shall we say, than Justin Timberlake, but he doesn't embarrass himself, that's for sure. He suffices in the role, he does well with what he's got, but I can't help but feel like this would have been better handled in a more accomplished actor's hands. There are some really touching moments in the film. The one in particular is when So this character played by Justin Timberlake, obviously when people get to a certain age, providing they can keep the time on their wrist, they don't age, their bodies stay the same. So his mother looks more like his sister. It's quite bizarre actually when he refers to her as his mum, but you know, you can understand that. You understand why that dynamic still exists. But there's a moment when she runs out of time, and it's really well handled, and it just, yeah, it kind of puts you into the shoes of these lower class people who are living day to day, how not being able to get on a bus could be a matter of life and death. Ultimately the film becomes a commentary on our mortality and how actually not having an infinite number of time or days on this earth is a blessing. You know, it means that you live each day as though it were your last. It means you're willing to put yourself out there more, take more chances, go for things that perhaps you wouldn't if time was no consequence. So you know, you see these rich people who live these rather humdrum lives, and just they're still hoarding, they're still keeping hold of all this time that they've got, but they're not really doing anything with it. You know, there's this moment when Justin Timberlake's character gets found out by Seyfried. She recognises that he's more from the slums because he's scoffing a meal down. He goes to this fancy restaurant and he just won't sit down because he's so used to eating that way, because time is such a precious thing. So it's little moments like that Niccol puts in that really does help to build this world and make you believe that this is where these characters live and have done all their lives. Killian Murphy is something of a villain in this, although he's a villain with some undertones that, you know, you sense that he's made certain judgments in his life, come to certain places, decisions that maybe he's had to make that have brought him to the position he's in. You feel like he has an ideology that you may not agree with, but that, you know, he has justifications for. So he's hunting down these two people because, again, it's that whole thing that them having time, because they basically steal time in order to remain together and to uncover a wider plot that's going on with the whole class structure. So having stolen that time, they're then fugitives from the law, and it's this Killian Murphy character who is tasked with bringing them in, hunting them down. And I do like the relationship that kind of forms between him and Timberlake and Seyfried's character, this cat and mouse game that ensues. So yeah, I think the costume design on him leaves much to be desired. He looks a little bit like a reject from a Matrix movie, but it's Killian Murphy, so he brings what Killian Murphy always brings, which is a good performance, and he elevates this character, I think, into something that is very watchable. This is a world that I do enjoy being in, and if this had been a mega success and they'd gone with some sequels, that would have been something that actually I wouldn't mind seeing, you know, coming back to this world. I think that Andrew Niccol is very good at what he does, which is primarily sci-fi. You know, he made Lord of War, which I think, to my recollection, is the only film on his CV so far that isn't sci-fi. But yeah, it's clearly where his strength lies in building these worlds. It's not as strong as Gattaca, definitely not, and it's certainly not as strong as The Truman Show, which obviously was under the deft hand of Peter Weir on directing duties. But considering what I thought of this film the first time around, yeah, I think it's very underappreciated. I know that because I was one of those people who did underappreciate it. I don't remember the reviews being particularly great during the time it came out, and that could have had something to do with my opinion. Unfortunately, sad to say, I don't want to admit that, but yeah, maybe my opinion was shaped by a lot of negative reviews. You tend to go into films when it gets a lot of negative feedback, and you bring that in, unfortunately, as baggage. So coming to it, you know, 7 years later, quite fresh, I enjoyed it, and I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. I think it's a movie worth a second watch. You know, if like me you didn't like it first time around, give it a second watch, give it another go, because I think there's more meat on its bones than first kind of given credit for. So yeah, 3.5 out of 5 from me. But what about you? Have you seen it in time? And if so, what did you think about it? Comment below, let me know, and until next time, cracking.